Hi, and welcome to the Legroom podcast. The purpose of the podcast is to engage in meaningful and interesting conversations with professionals who are excelling in their field of work. We do so by initiating dialogues and having conversations about new and upcoming avenues of work, which some might even consider as unconventional. The objective of the conversation is to widen the viewers' perspectives about careers and the journeys which people take to find what they love doing. Welcome back to the third episode of the Legroom podcast. Today we're joined by Gargi Datar. Gargi is from Pune and is based in Bombay. She started her career as an actor at the age of 7. Ever since then, she's acted in movies, TV shows and the theatre. Gargi also happens to be a Kathak dancer and learned Kathak at the age of 5 from her mother. Let's see what she has to say about the movie industry and her journey as an actor. Hi Gargi, what's up? We're
Hi.
live.
Yes, I'm very excited to be here.
That's good to know. What are you up to these days? How are you?
So I am doing a lot of back and forth between Bombay and Pune these days, which has been my life for like the last 7-8 years, I think. I am working with a female director, signed an NDA, so I can't give out names, but on a very interesting documentary,
Nice.
on which I'm doing research and writing and a bunch of things. So that's going on, and as an actor, I'm giving auditions.
Nice. You got into this very early in your life, I believe. It's 6 years old?
Yes, very
That was
early.
your first role.
Yes.
How was that? How did you...
So actually, I got into this by fluke. So I mean, nobody in my family is really associated to the film industry, so to say, and especially Hindi industry.
Right.
But when I was like 5 or 6 years old, my grandmother said, she looks very cute. We don't know if she'll be the same when she grows up. Just get her pictures taken. It's my last wish and things like that. So
Right.
on a whim, I got my pictures taken, and the photographer, who's based out of Pune itself, he said, why don't you send it across to Bombay to all of these casting agents or coordinators and directors. And I mean, we had no idea what that was. My parents said, okay, you do whatever. We don't know what this is, but go ahead. So he did that, and then I started getting calls for auditions, and like we didn't know what auditions meant or what it meant to prepare for an audition. None of that. I mean, I was also a kid. My parents were new to the whole thing, but my mother's a Kathak dancer, so we did have art in our family. So I don't think they were very averse to the idea, thankfully. So, they encouraged me, they helped me out a lot. I mean, obviously, I was 6. But I would go to Bombay, I would give auditions, or I would give auditions in Pune. And, I mean, self-tests were sort of a thing back then, but not that big. So, and we didn't even have, like, phones with good cameras back then. Like,
Right.
do you realize this is like the Nokia dabba phone
Yes.
era? So we had to look around for like people with a camera, and they would come with those huge cameras that film weddings and things like that, not
Yeah.
even your DSLRs nowadays. And they would come home and we would set up and do an audition and send it across, which also took hours because internet was bad. But we did a bunch of that, and then I started getting work. I started getting TV commercials. As a kid, I started getting movies, and then one thing just sort of led to the other. And before I realized, I was skipping school. I was skipping my 8th grade finals to go shoot for a film, and I was...
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I was in Bombay half the time, in Pune half the time, and suddenly it just, my childhood went over its head and became something else altogether.
Nice.
But that's how I started, and I'm very glad I did, and it's been a wonderful journey since. I got to learn a lot very early on. I had to be on sets when I was 6 or 7 years old, and call times would be 5 in the morning, which means you had to wake up at 4 and get ready and reach the location. And sometimes we would have night schedules, which means you had to shoot from 7 in the evening to 8 in the morning or things like that. So I guess like from a young age, I was kind of used to a shitty sleep cycle, which helps now.
That's great.
But yeah, it's been great, and that kind of paved the path for me for the rest of my life. Like, thankfully, I didn't have to do the whole oh shit, what do I do with my life at 16 sort of a phase.
You did that at 6. You know, you started and you gravitated towards this career and being on screen as a kid. So that must have boosted your confidence a lot, I'm guessing.
So it's a two-way street,
Right.
a double-edged sword rather. But you know how you're in school and your closest friends, like the joy they get is out of making fun of you.
Mm-hmm.
So my entire school life, all of my friends, I mean, they were obviously like really excited about the fact that, you know, a friend they see every day in school is also somebody they see on TV. But the real joy they got was in making fun of me all the time in school. I remember I did this ad for Berger Paints. I must have been 8 years old or something. And that time they were promoting, like, you know, you get a free smiley ball with every Berger Paint pack of, they had those stars and like the glow-in-the-dark stars and Powerpuff Girls on the walls and things like that, like their kids collection.
Right.
So it was an ad for that, and it said the end of the ad was just me, like tiny me, and I would bump the smiley ball and it would light up and it would say, now you get a smiley ball free. And I was called Smiley Ball and God knows what else in school for like the entire year. And they had a ball of a time just making fun of me.
Right.
So it was both the things. I mean, in my family, everyone was like, oh wow, you're doing this, you're doing that. On the other end of it, my friends were just ruthless, absolutely ruthless. But I guess that's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it builds you.
Yeah, definitely. It also taught me very early on that regardless of what I do, I am always going to be very, not embarrassed, but anything I do can be used to embarrass me at any point. So I decided, fine, this is how it is. Yeah, this is how it is. This is how it is. I'm going to be made fun of throughout. And there are some really weird videos of me on the internet giving auditions or like, on YouTube or like really old ads where I'm doing really weird things, and any new person I meet, if they Google my name, they will see all of these random things. But now I'm just used to it. I'm like, yes, that is me and I did that. But I was 6.
Yeah, makes sense. Come on. Nobody can blame you.
Yeah. But
please show me these videos after. No worries, just kidding. So, as a kid, I believe you acted with Anupam Kher as well?
I did, yes.
Anupam Kher is one of my favorite people to follow on Instagram. Mm-hmm. Just the kind of content he posts, it makes my day. Him going and talking to these strangers, him going and talking to people who are living
his
on the street.
His mother also a lot.
Yeah, his mother. It's very funny. So what was that like, working with him? And
So I got exposed to a lot of things at a very early stage, but I will say that I got really lucky and I was very blessed that I got to work with some amazing people that kind of held my hand and walked me through how the whole thing is, because otherwise it's very easy to get attracted by all the possibilities that are there in this industry, especially when you're a child actor. But I think working with Anupam Kher ji or the entire team of the first Hindi film I did, it was called Hawai Dada.
Yes.
It was a UTV production, and it was this very, very cute story, a slice of life sort of a film about this granddaughter and grandfather, and I was playing the granddaughter, and it was about how the grandfather's dying wish is to sit in an airplane. They're from this really tiny town from Madhya Pradesh and things like that, and how she sort of tries her best to get him on a flight. So that's the entire story. But I think working with him, he didn't just teach me a lot on set, but also about how I can navigate my way through in the industry. Because at a very early stage, he was like, unless it's a question of bread and butter, don't do TV serials. Because you get stuck in doing TV serials and then it becomes a 9 to 5. And things are changing now, obviously. But you get typecasted as a TV serial actor and blah blah blah, a bunch of things. Especially if you get into it at a very young age, then like it's equivalent to anything else you do, right? Like if you're forced to say join tennis when you are 6 years old and you don't want to do it, but you're like रोज सुबह क्लास जाना है, रोज शाम को क्लास जाना है. Obviously, in a couple of years, you will not feel like doing that. So he said it should come from within. Only then, go ahead with it or pursue it. Which was it. So not just on set, but even off set. I think he taught a lot. He's very humble as a person also. I mean, we are in touch even today. Every time he comes to Pune, we will meet. He will wish me on my birthday. He's given me gifts growing up on my birthday. Wow. Every time we meet, he'll be like, "What are you doing now? Tell me.
Nice.
Is this what you want to do? Figure it out."
It's
and
like a reality
things like
check.
that. Yeah, definitely. So not just him, but even a lot of other people that I met. People that are behind the scenes that people probably don't know the names of. From different production houses, EPs, directors, cinematographers, all of these people have been really nice. And I mean, a big credit for that also goes to my parents, because either of my parents would accompany me on set because I was a kid and needed a guardian. But because they were also so humble and they were so nice to everybody, that people I worked with when I was 6 years old also, if I meet them right now, they will remember me and they'll ask me how my parents are doing.
Yeah.
That's the kind of bond that they created. And because they were so nice to everybody on set, in return, everybody helped me out a lot. Like, we could get in touch with these people and say, she's been called for this film. Is the production house good? Do you know anybody that's working on this project? Is it legit? Even things like these, because there are a lot of like scamsters here just trying to hook on to people who are desperate for work. So, so we had like a really big support system in that sense on any set I went to, which helps a lot. And Anupam Kher was a big part of that. Like even afterwards, even his PA or boy, as they're called, like his assistant who will go around with him everywhere. Even he was so nice, Even he would like come to my parents and be like, "You don't know what production house will give what. You should just always carry bread, butter, and jam in your bag because you never know what will happen." Like even small things like this to like the bigger things. Like eventually you have to shift to Bombay. Otherwise, it's that there is no other choice if you want to make it in this industry and things like that. So from the tiniest of things to the biggest of things, I think I had people who've guided me, who've helped me out to figure out what my next step can be.
Right.
So I think that has been like a big blessing so far.
That's good.
Yeah.
And I think when you are exposed to such nice people, right, and when you get that help, I believe that you as a person also like to pass it on to someone.
Yeah, definitely.
And then it becomes a nice community.
Yeah.
And that's good. So
yeah, I mean, I remember when we used to go for these auditions when I was growing up, and there were these, parents of like these kids who would like push them and be like, "वो शाहरुख खान वाला dialogue करके बता," या "वो करीना वाला hair flip करके बता," and things like that to the kid and my parents, and I would just sit there and be like, I don't know any of this. Like, like as kids, if you see any child actor, or if you go and look at their auditions or how the auditions are conducted, I mean, at least back then it was a lot about, what mimicry you can do or what dialogues you know by heart. And I had nothing like that. Like, I would just innocently go there and do whatever they told me to do and leave. And whereas there were these other kids that I was surrounded with who were like glitz and glam and will do a whole like jazz hand show, and I would just be like, I don't know what's happening. But like we realized that these are, to each their own, I guess, but but there are parents who would like quit their jobs and push their kids to do TV serials or make them go to 100 auditions a day, or pick them up from school and directly bring them to...
At what age was these kids?
Any age. Like, you see newborn babies in like Huggies ads. Where do you think they're coming from? So it's a lot. It's a whole different world. It's a whole different industry, and even the coordinators for these kids, the way they function is also very different. So they would be picked up from school, dragged to these like aaj yahan ye audition dena hai, then you go from Oshiwara to Aram Nagar to like Veera Desai Road to like that whole area, or like Goregaon you go somewhere for auditions, and then in the evening they would bring them home. So all of that, and then sometimes I think I was lucky that I was in Pune, because we would only go for auditions when we knew that I had a proper shot at getting it, or
Right.
that it was recommended by someone, or things like that. And then after a point, I would just get work based on other work that I had done. So also my parents were really supportive in the way that they never pushed me out of my like comfort zone, so to say. There have been times where I've woken up at 6 in the morning, we've got a Shivneri to go to Bombay, and like we've reached like Vanas or something halfway there, and I've cried to my dad saying I don't want to go, I want to go to school, because I used to love going to school. I love my school.
Wow.
Yes. But I would cry and be like, no, can I just go to school, blah blah, and he would be like, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. We would get off wherever we were and come back home.
That's the most sensible thing to do.
That's the only way that I am still in this for the long run. Because if I would have been pushed too much as a kid,
Yeah.
I would have lost complete interest in it.
Kids do what they're told not to do, I think. And
Yeah. Yeah,
I think
definitely.
that they always do stuff.
Yeah.
But that's ridiculous, you were telling me about these parents who quit their jobs and just keep pushing their kids for auditions. I don't think that's right.
It's
They're kind of
definitely
deciding the life for their kid.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, nowadays, at least back then, social media wasn't as big. But nowadays, you see kids who are like 12 and 13 with like thriving social media accounts who will post about what movie they're shooting for, what they're doing, and like it's worrying, like these kids will sort of panic if they haven't shot for anything in like say 1 month. They're not used to the whole routine of childhood that we generally probably have. Everyone has growing up in their own capacity, but they get into like these really weird places where they start feeling like they're not doing enough, they're not doing well, they are not putting in enough effort and things like that, which I feel like shouldn't be the case at such a young age. And I think that has a lot to do with upbringing. So I was really lucky in that way also.
And as a kid, I think a very big part of being a kid and growing up is getting bored.
Yeah, definitely.
And boredom is this evolutionary discomfort that's created, which tells you that, what I'm doing right now is not an efficient use of my time, so might as well cultivate new habits.
Exactly.
And kids these days don't know the concept of boredom.
Yeah, we would invent games.
Yeah,
I remember we
exactly.
would step out with like friends, and when you were bored of playing like the 3 games you knew, you would sit around and be like, what to do now? And you would invent games.
Yeah.
Like we even invented games in school during break time with like whatever was
pen
around.
fights.
Yeah, exactly, right?
That is
I don't think that's the case anymore.
Yeah.
I mean,
with social media and everything, it especially is not.
Also with schools going all like international and whatever, like I recently did a project for a school in Bombay, one of those blah 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 international school. Kids are allowed to bring their devices to school as study material. So in the breaks you will see kids on their phones in the bathroom taking selfies or scrolling on Instagram, or like sitting and watching TV shows and things like that, and like corridors are quiet, and it was so eerie to like just walk in during break time, and there was just like scrolling and like TV shows, and like no kids screaming and pulling each other's hair or like none of that. And I was like, what the hell is happening? This is not how we grew up, and this is not how people should grow up.
That's scary actually. Talking about games, I recently started did you play Name Place Animal thing as a kid?
Oh yeah, of course.
So I started, making more people play verbal Name Place Animal thing.
Ooh, fun.
And like trying to get back, and it reminds, it puts you in touch with these untapped memories.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
like all of these old games have now become party games when you've grown up. Like when you're sitting in a circle and nobody knows what to do, it's like an icebreaker.
That's true. But no, damn, these schools and these kids with allowing technology and getting phones.
I think we got lucky. We were the last generation that grew up without tech.
For sure. And what that boredom also did was it kind of helped us realize what we want to do.
Yeah.
Because we learned through trial and error.
Yeah, definitely.
And,
I mean, I had comparatively a very busy childhood, but I used to get bored on sets because part of being an actor is waiting and just getting bored all the time. Because, you might have one shot which is at 6 in the morning,
Right.
and then you have nothing till like 3 p.m. after lunch or something like that. So, in the gaps in between is when I sort of cultivated a lot of hobbies that I have. Like, I would sit with books. Again, this is something that people suggested on the set,
Nice.
saying, there's this guy called Nilesh Maniyar who writes with Shonali Bose. He's done a bunch of things like Margarita with a Straw and...
that's his?
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
I like that.
So, yeah, a bunch of other things. So, now I think like even the people I worked with when I was a kid are now doing like really big famous things. So, it's great spotting names when, the credits roll.
Right.
But anyway, I remember he would like come and tell me, why are you just sitting like this? Just get a book. At least you will have something to do.
Right.
And that's where I cultivated like a reading habit. I would just sit with a book in one corner of the set for hours because I had nothing like to do, say, in between things. Because it's a lot of waiting. And as a kid, you get impatient really easy, right?
Yeah.
So I started reading. I started picking up languages, and then I got interested in languages, and then I started learning German, which I then
Wow.
which I then picked up at MMB in Pune. And things that I feel like nothing you do ever goes to waste, right?
Yeah.
Nothing you do ever goes to waste. So, I mean, there are a lot of people who will be like, why are you doing this? Is this really going to help your career?
Yeah.
You never
It
know.
does. It does.
You never know.
Right.
Because any sort of learning is always going to come in handy in some form or the other.
Makes sense.
You never know. So even when I was learning German, I was learning it on a whim just because I wanted to, because it was interesting. My school had also introduced it, and then I was like, oh, there is something here. So I started studying more, and then when I started studying at MMB, they would have these scholarships, right, that would send people to Germany. And I applied on a whim because my college teacher was like, just give it a shot. And I was like, I don't know anything. I'm like A1 level, A2 level German. That also in school, they don't teach you how to speak. They teach you like grammar and things like that. And she's like, no, just give it a shot, just give it a shot.
Let it go, yeah.
And I tried, and I remember when I went for the interview, there were 5 other people. And all of them, so they basically asked, why do you want to go to Germany on this scholarship? So most of the other people were like, I want to become an automobile engineer, and Germany is the country where automobile manufacturing and producing and all of that is the best. I want to do this, that. So a lot of them had like, I want to eventually apply to this university in Germany or whatever. And when it came to me, I don't come from any of that background at all. Come from a very different background.
Right.
So I was just sitting there in that interview, and in whatever broken German I knew, I was like, I want to know about the people there and the culture over there, and like what their life is like, and how is it very different from ours, what the art there is like, because like we have a very strong background of Indian cultural art, classical art in whatever form, right? Fine arts, performing arts, whatever. But I mean, before I went, I didn't know anything other than like Grimm fairy tales, which are from Germany.
Okay.
I didn't know anything else about the art scene from there or what that history is like. So, in very bad broken German, I said that, and everyone else was speaking like really fancy German, and I was just sitting there like, I'm never going to make it, this is not going to happen. But I got picked because I actually wanted to know about the place.
Yeah, that curiosity is
Yeah.
right.
So, and then I was like, this is so weird, like why am I even doing German? But just that 1 month that I spent there was completely different. I went there and I watched a production of Much Ado About Nothing, which is a Shakespeare play, and they'd done like a modern retelling of it in German.
Wow.
And I was blown away. I realized that Shakespeare has no language. It was in German. I couldn't understand half of it, but I was still laughing because it was in a way physical comedy, and
Right.
the actors were doing a great job. It was set in a contemporary context, and like I came back and I was like, you know, I want to do more theater. So you never know how things work out.
Right.
Like I picked up German just because I had time, and you know, why not? And then I went to Germany again because, like, I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And I came back from there and I was like, theater. This is something that I really want to pursue further.
Right.
So you never know how these things work out. So, I mean, I personally believe you should do whatever comes your way because...
take it as it comes and then don't plan too much.
Yeah, and like don't think about, you know, it's not always about ROI and like return on your investment or like
and
what
as
is
Indians,
going to...
you really focus on that one part.
Yeah,
ROI.
because you grow up with that sort of a mindset, right?
That's
You
true.
grow up with people around you saying इतना परसेंटेज मिलेगा तो इस कॉलेज में जाएंगे फिर इंजीनियरिंग करेंगे ये करेंगे वो करेंगे and I was like completely different. I was just like, I'm going to do whatever, like whatever.
Let it come,
Yeah.
And I think in your career, I feel like these skills are what build you. Like if you play the guitar, if you sing, if you dance, if you know an extra language.
Yeah, definitely.
Those are all skills which help in acting. So you mentioned social media, right? And we spoke about social media. So there's this trend that I'm seeing where influencers are now getting into acting.
Yes.
And are becoming actors. And the smart thing that they're doing is they're kind of using social media and they're creating a social media image. And that base and that social media page becomes a kind of a portfolio.
Correct.
And according to you, being in the industry, do you think that it's going to revolutionize the...
So, I mean, I'm a little divided on this, but I'll tell you what, honestly. I wish that I could be that person on social media. And I am not. Because I think a lot about, you know, what... Also because I come from a... Like, my education has been in the marketing, advertising sort of a background. So, I come from a place of, you know, that if you are on social media, then you have to provide value, you have to provide something other than putting up your own pictures.
Content.
Yes, some form of content that has value addition in other people's life or is educating them or just something, right?
Right.
And I hate that. I wish I didn't think that much. I wish I could just be the person who will like wake up, edit like a shabby video and post it, because like these real life kind of things seem to be what is working.
Yes.
Which is great for people that can do it, but I don't know how sustainable it is, honestly. Because, I mean, Facebook had its time. Instagram will, I am guessing, have its time. Snapchat had its time.
Yeah.
YouTube had its time in a certain kind of content creating.
Correct.
Even podcasting right now, from where it is to what it is, I feel like it's peaking right now.
Right.
Then we have to see where it goes from here, right?
Right.
So, right now, all of these people are using it as their portfolio, which is great, like a bank of their work, which is great.
Right.
But in terms of sustainability of this, I don't know how far we'll go.
Makes sense.
Because they are solely dependent on a platform to pitch them. Whereas if you have a certain training in the field, if you are doing 10 other things that you might not be able to showcase on, say, an Instagram, YouTube, whatever, you still have that base. So if tomorrow, you know, Elon Musk buys Instagram and does what he did to Twitter, you're not suddenly like...
X.
You're not suddenly like, what is happening with my life?
Right.
So... But I'm talking about like 10, 20 years down the line. Right?
Makes sense. No, but
Right now, it's great that people can use platforms like these to pursue what they want to pursue. That is, if they want to pursue acting.
Right.
Because there are a lot of people who start off as content creators, and then because of the way the world is working, they also end up doing acting. Which then is sort of, taking away from people that have been pursuing acting solely.
That's a nice perspective,
But
you know.
Yeah. So, I mean, depends. I'm forgetting her name. Srishti, that comedian, what's her name? Who makes all of those Hindi videos. She's damn funny. Anyway, Srishti something, I'm forgetting her name.
Okay.
But, I mean, she started off as a comedian, content creator, and now she's in a movie, or even Prajakta Kohli for that matter. So they always wanted to be actors, so they pivoted their careers in that way.
Right.
But
I think even Kusha Kapila, who
yeah,
she's-
exactly.
she's in a
Exactly.
movie now.
So, I mean, I'm very happy for them.
Yeah.
Like I said, there is no, in this industry, I think this was off camera that I said it, but in this industry, there is no one way to do things,
Yeah, there's no
or
right
no
and wrong.
right way to do things. There
Makes
is no like a paved out path, or like a climbing up a ladder in like a corporate sort of a this thing where you do this job and then you quit in 2 years, you leverage that and you do
Right.
another job and then you do 3 years over there and then you, I don't know, do a lateral shift and all of those fancy words
So
that
trial and
I
error.
don't know. Yeah.
That's
So
good.
in this, it's all about finding what works for you,
Right.
finding, or even just finding what kind of work you want to do. Like, not everyone wants to be the next Alia Bhatt or Deepika or like Priyanka Chopra.
That makes a lot of
Yeah,
sense.
maybe some people just want to do work that makes them happy. I mean, or there are so many wonderful actors who probably aren't as much in the limelight as these other people are, but they're equally satisfied with the kind of work that they're doing.
Right.
So, I mean, with influencers, it's a very because again, I come from a marketing and advertising background. I get when platforms like your Amazon and Netflix or Hotstar or even brands for that matter would rather go for people who already have a built audience, because then they
Right.
do half the work for them, right? Like for example, if you are, and this happens a lot with, say, if you're a shampoo brand, if you are, say, Head and Shoulders or whatever, and you're making a TV commercial, then the brief that the casting people will probably get is that they want a female influencer who has 100k plus followers, because that way they can kill two birds with one stone, because they get their TV commercial
Right.
and they also get their social media going at the same time, right? Because that influencer will post BTS of the ad. She
Right.
will also post screen grabs from the ad. She will also post the ad.
Right.
So when the deal is made between the brand and the influencer, all of these things are also considered. So they will pay her for the TVC the day of the shoot, the stills, and they will also pay her for social media posts that
Yeah,
she will
that's
put
a
up.
big channel of marketing now for them. Right?
Exactly. So from a brand perspective, it makes absolute sense. There's an opportunity there. It's
Right.
if they can save money, why will they not?
Why not? Right.
You know. So I'm not against it, but I don't know how sustainable
Of course.
it is, for that matter, or I don't know how much just having a following can help, because even with these people, at the end of the day, your content is king, as they say.
Right.
So you can't just, like, there are TVF shows that are doing really well that have no big names on it, that started off as YouTube shorts,
Right.
like not shorts, but like YouTube small half an hour videos.
I know.
But because the content was something that the audience is connected with, they became big, and in turn, even the actors became big. Now there are not just TVF, but other content platforms that are trying it the other way around, where they are hiring big names, like famous names, but the content is not working. तो तुम्हारे व्यूज दिख रहे पर शेयर्स नहीं है, या it's not as big as, say, like TVF pictures, if you say, people know
Right.
because the content was amazing, or tripling, or things like that. The newer TVF shows that are coming on, people probably don't know because the content does not match what it was back then, and now their strategy has changed to hoping that these famous people will get them views.
Right.
Again, this is all my, just my insight. This does not come from any um, research studied this
Right.
thing. These are just things that I have picked up along the way. So
Well, it's good
just
because
a
I mean,
disclaimer.
you are there, you are in that profession.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I take your word for it. So now, let's get into you acting and your career as an actor, and what does a regular day look like for you?
Um, so for any actor, a regular day looks like a lot of rejection because and a lot of waiting
Right.
and a lot of not knowing things. Um, but because I have been doing this for a very long time, so people do get thrown off a lot, and rightly so, because you will put in so much time and effort. Every day you're waking up, you're trying to give audition. Like first step is trying to get an audition. Forget giving. That's like बहुत आगे का. Like just trying to get an audition, meeting the right people. So that in itself is a struggle. So I think a big part of any actor's day is trying to reach out to the right people, to network with the right people, to get auditions. And then you give auditions, and then 90% of the time you get a call saying, sorry, it didn't work out. So I think dealing with that is a big part of any actor's day.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's no set routine for most of us, which is why I don't know how to answer this question in terms of, because I'm going to be very honest, I try to have a routine, but it's very difficult, like I try to wake up early and work out and be that it girl or that you see on Instagram, who will wake up at 7, have like a smoothie and work out and then get ready and go out, and that is not what my day looks like
That's
at
too
all.
flowery and
It is just trying to get out of bed.
yeah.
It is seeing if I have any auditions that I have to give for that day, following up with people that I have gotten in touch with previously, seeing what is on in the movies or in the theaters and trying to catch a show of whatever there is.
Just being proactive.
Yeah, just keeping
very-
yourself engaged, because
Right.
if you don't keep yourself engaged, it's a really slippery slope. I mean, like I said, like because I've been used to this since quite a while, because even as a kid I would give like 10 auditions and maybe get one role from that, which is also a big like this thing. Usually you give 100 and you don't get any also.
Okay.
So rejection has been such a big part of just growing up that for me right now it's not as hard hitting as it probably is for a lot of other people who are new to the whole industry. And I think a big part of any actor's everyday life is to kind of figure out their own coping mechanisms to deal with rejection, to deal with having so much time on your hands, right? Like, what do you do? So I think just figuring that out is a big part of my day, which is why I pick up a lot of small hobbies here and there that I can do, or small jobs that come my way. Also because Bombay is super expensive.
Oh yeah.
Super expensive
Yeah,
to just like breathe. It's
Yeah.
expensive to breathe in Bombay. So, and you can't really be sure about the flow of income you have as an actor. So a
Right.
big part of my day will also go in trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to make money? How am I going to make rent this month? So, so personally for me, I do a lot of small odd jobs here and there. So I do freelance writing on Upwork.
Yeah.
It's this US based website, which is like a Fiverr.com or a freelancer.com sort of a thing. So I do documentary research and writing for Upwork, which takes up a bit of my day and also makes me dollars, which is great. Helps me sustain in Bombay.
Yes.
I do a lot of theatre. After my graduation, I worked for a bit, and then I went to drama school Mumbai, and I did their acting and theatre making course, which opened up like a whole new world for me.
Right.
So if I'm doing a bunch of plays in Bombay right now, so that includes rehearsals, and rehearsal spaces are like my favorite spaces. It's insane. The amount of fun you have is crazy. Like you get to be a child again and no one is judging you. It's the best. So a lot of my time goes in rehearsing, or then I pick up short-term projects like I'm assisting somebody right now, like I mentioned. Other, like teaching in schools is a big way that theatre people try to make some extra cash. Also,
Do you do
it's
that?
fun. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So all of these schools will want a theatre person who will come and teach or help with their annual show and things like that. So corporates also. Nowadays, HRs are crazy about having theatre people come and talk about opening up and living life outside the corporate world. So there are things like that. So as an actor, you have to wait a lot for to get an opportunity to try to get things going. So I think all of these little things here and there fill up my day a lot. And so it's very sporadic. There is no
Right.
schedule as such. It's very difficult to stick to a schedule, which makes it also very difficult a lot of times. But I love it. I mean, that's why I signed up for this.
Makes
Like
sense.
if I wanted a very strict routine schedule in life, I would have done a 9 to 5.
Something else, yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So, in this chaos, what is the calm that you find? What do you like to do? What's your go-to? I don't know how to frame this question, but suppose, like, do you like trekking? Do you like to calm
Yeah.
yourself down? Because I can get that, acting can get stressful also at times and mentally draining.
Yeah.
So, what do you do to let your brain kind of reset and revive?
So, I'm also a Kathak dancer. I have been since again. My mom's a Kathak dancer, so I started learning since like I was born. But that is moving my body is my comfort space, comfort zone. I'd say, not specifically in this form, but because I've always, I mean, I used to go for class 3 hours in the evening every day, which would growing up in school or whatever, which would make me feel very grounded and very like happy by the end of it, even if it was 3 hours of dancing. So I think that is still with me. So every time I feel like I don't know what's happening, things are slipping out of my hands, I find some space, I put on some music and I move.
Nice.
So in whatever way, it can be really stupid things also, or like really intense things also. Yeah. So I think just moving in that sense is something that really helps me calm down, find my grounding again, to just be like, it's okay, it'll happen. I also do like to go outdoors a lot, but Bombay. So
of course.
I have to like look far away for like a tree. But yes, I do like to do that a lot. Whenever I'm in Pune, there are so many hills here which I love. So I go for a run or just a walk for that matter. In Bombay, not as much. But I read also, which helps me. I watch comfort TV shows and movies.
Yes.
Even if it's
Please
just playing in the background.
name a few.
My comfort watches are sitcoms. I absolutely love New Girl, and yes, New Girl fam. I love New Girl. I love Community.
Yes.
I love Modern Family. So all of these are like my comfort shows,
Right.
Office, obviously, but not as much, I would say.
Okay.
Like how people put on any random show of Office from any like point
You
in
can't do that.
this thing. I do that for like New Girl and Community.
Nice.
And
Yeah, same actually.
yeah. So, and rom-coms. I know I'm from the industry and like I'm supposed to watch like art, cinema and things like that, but more often than not, I end up watching a lot of trash content on TV as to calm me down.
You need to, because as a creative person, I saw this meme, I think. Creative people need time to sit and do nothing.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot, that just
just watching
recharges
like
you.
movies where you don't have to use your brain and try to
Right.
figure out what does this angle mean, or
Yeah.
like what is the hidden truth behind this dialogue that was just spoken. I love doing that also,
Right.
but that becomes more of practice, or like a form of a way of practicing my art form.
Right.
So then when I unwind, it's trash content through and through.
Makes sense. So, you mentioned that you were also a part of a casting agency.
Yes.
So, I know nothing about it. So, could you just give me a brief kind of
Yeah,
explanation as to
definitely.
what they do?
I worked with, so after my graduation from Xavier's, I was sort of again like a little lost. Like I knew I wanted to get into this industry, but I didn't know how. So I got in touch with Nilesh Maniyar again, and he said, he's friends with these two people, and he'll put me in touch. And so I started working at Casting Bay, which is run by Anmol Ahuja and Abhishek Banerjee.
Okay.
Abhishek Banerjee is Hathoda Tyagi, basically, if you all know, from Mirzapur.
I haven't seen it.
That's okay.
Sorry.
But hopefully the audience will know.
Oh, yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
so it's their company, and I started working with them, and it's one of the biggest after, I would say, Mukesh Chhabra casting company.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll explain like a general idea of how the ecosystem works.
Cool.
Okay, so there is pre-production, then there is shooting of the film, and then there is post-production.
Right.
Okay, so casting falls under the pre-production side of things. So when a script is made, it goes to a production house, a director comes on board, all of that happens, and then when you have to figure out who will be the actors in the film, that is where casting comes in. So now casting people will cast for everything required. So if that means that the main lead is not finalized, from like the main lead primary cast as it's called to the secondary cast, मतलब होता है ना हीरो का दोस्त,
Supporting.
yeah.
Okay.
So that's the secondary cast, and then
Right.
there is tertiary cast, which is people that have one-line dialogues, maybe, like some guy in the office who hands a cup of coffee and then is never seen again. That's tertiary cast.
Okay.
So all of these fall into the lap of the casting agency.
Right.
This is for movies and TV shows, and then there are ads also.
Right.
Which is a different department. Ads is very like cutthroat, very like you have to be 24/7 working to be a casting person for ads. It's insane. Because for any ad you see, like say you're casting for Cadbury and you want that very chocolate hero, chocolate boy, cute looking guy and girl, 15-16-year-old duo, you will have to audition over 150 people
Yeah.
to get those two people. So ads is a completely different world, and I mainly worked on movies and TV shows at Casting Bay. I worked on Ji Karda that came out on Amazon Prime recently. I worked on the second season of Patal Lok, which they're shooting right now, so it'll come out soon. I worked on a Thursday. I worked on a bunch of other films, Blind, which came out recently with Sonam Kapoor, and a bunch of things. But so that's essentially how it works. We get a script. The director tells us what his or her vision is for these characters.
Right.
They give us a brief, which can range from physical description to like attributes of the character, like little quirks maybe that they have, or what kind of personality that they are looking at.
The director gives you this.
The director will give us a brief.
Nice.
And then based on that, we go through multiple different databases that we have, or just our own connects or things that we have seen. We go through that and try to figure out, okay, who all can be auditioned. And then you make lists of like, say, okay, 20 people for this character, and then you call them over. You brief them about what the project is, what the character is. You decide what scenes are the audition scenes for them, and then you take the audition and you send it ahead.
Okay.
So basically, casting people become the middleman woman of they bridge the gap between demand and supply, basically.
Okay.
So I am super, super glad that I did it.
Okay.
And that I stuck around there for almost 2 years. A lot of actors and people, even from outside the industry, there's the whole thing of कि if you're a casting assistant, then you'll just cast yourself. Like खुद को ही रोल दे दोगे और फिर हमारा ऑडिशन ही क्यों लेते हो अगर आप खुद को ही रोल देना था आपको, and then they will go on this thing. But I'm not saying it doesn't happen.
Okay.
Every job has its own, I'm sure this happens even in the non-art field, but I know for a fact that more often than not, this does not happen. There are exceptions that people will hold up and be like, casting people just cast themselves. This has happened in the past, but I will say those are exceptions that stood out.
Okay.
Otherwise, casting like assistants, directors, they're just trying really hard to get the right character so that they can go to bed. Because it's a thankless 24/7 job and you have to deal with a lot of people. But I got to learn a lot through the process as an actor also.
Yeah, I mean, you were there in front of the screen and then even in the back.
Yeah, and
it's completely
I
different.
mean, when I was working as a kid, I had no idea of how things work, right?
Yeah,
how
yeah.
I got there. I mean, I've had the weirdest experiences. I remember I went to shoot for a Malabar Gold commercial down south.
Wow.
I did one in Tamil and Telugu. And I was at the airport in Hyderabad or Bangalore, at one of the two.
South India.
But yes, somewhere in the south, let's
Okay.
put it that way. I was there, and these two random people, I was with my dad, and these two random people walked up to me and they were like, we've seen you somewhere. And then my dad's like, yeah, she works in this and that, blah blah blah. And they're like, yeah, so we're shooting for this Maggie pasta commercial that is coming up, so maybe we feel like you would be perfect for this. And they were like the ADs or whatever on the project. And then a couple of days later, I remember my school had these yearly trips that we would go on. And I was on one of those, and it's an overnight thing, which is very fascinating as a kid. Like you get to go overnight
Sleep
with your
over.
school friends, yeah. But I reached, and in the afternoon only, my teachers got a call saying your parents are coming to pick you up, and I was like, first thought is like, oh shit, someone died.
No. Oh.
Because
Oh, damn.
like otherwise why would there be an emergency? But my parents came to pick me up, and my dad's like, we're going to Bangkok. And I was like, what? So he's like, yeah, so you got that Maggie pasta commercial. Remember the two random dudes that you met at the airport? So they got in touch. We don't know how they got our number, but the flight is in the evening and we're leaving for Bangkok.
Wow.
And we went to Bangkok to shoot for a Maggie pasta commercial, and we were there for 4 days, out of which I was shooting only for 1 day. But the whole crew was there for 4 days, so they kept us there for 4 days and we came back. And after I shot for it, I was like, why did we have to go to Bangkok? But turns out the food technicians were from there. So the people that make the pasta or the Maggie look appealing on screen, where you see the pasta falling and then the sauce comes in from both sides, and then the veggies are all like green and
Flying
orange
around.
and fresh. And so people that make it look that way, they're called food technicians. And back then the best team was in Bangkok, and it was cheaper to fly down the artists and half the crew to Bangkok than to get them to Bombay for this.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so like really weird shit like that has happened. And then after the Malabar ad came out, my face was circled and passed around in all of these groups saying, who's this kid? And then I got a Vodafone Delights commercial through that. So as a kid, things just kept happening to me instead of me trying to make it happen. I was just going with the flow. I was enjoying it, so I was doing it.
Right.
But Casting Bay gave me like a huge reality check of how things actually work.
Right.
And this is something that I feel like every actor should know. Half the time it's not because you didn't give a good audition or whatever. Like I was sitting in rooms with directors and EPs and like executive producers and people that basically make the call, who take the call of, okay, we'll lock this actor for this part. And I used to think that, if you are good with your craft and if you crack that audition, bas life set ho jayegi. But most of the times it's not that, because a director has his or her own vision of what the character should look like, how the character should behave, what traits the character should have. Also needs to figure out the rest of the world that the film is set in.
Right.
You know, अगर family दिखानी है तो मम्मी पापा बेटा should have some connection with each other, right? Like a family looks, or just so many other factors are there for you to get the role or not.
Right.
So there have been so many times where we have pitched and pushed for an ex actor because he or she has killed the audition, and the director is just sitting there and saying,
Doesn't work. Makes sense.
no. And like the director will pick somebody who probably gave a really bad audition, but like he fits the character or she fits the character that the director had in mind.
Right.
So like a lot of actors kill themselves over the fact that, you know, I put in so much effort, I gave this kick-ass audition, why didn't I get it?
It's not his
Most
fault.
of the times it's not your fault.
Makes sense. So we spoke about your casting agency journey, and that was very interesting. I have always had this question. In the film industry, are there introverts and extroverts? Actors in particular.
Definitely, like 1000%.
Okay.
A lot of the actors are introverts, but
Really?
because of their profession, they probably have to pretend to be extroverts, so to
Yeah.
say. And I mean, it's not a necessity. It's not like a, you know, either or, that if you're not an extrovert, you can't get into the industry, or like
Right.
you can't do a camera facing role, whatever it is. That's not true, because an actor's job essentially is to play somebody else, right? To
Yeah.
be able to play a character or somebody that they are not.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's the other way around also. Maybe you're really extroverted, but the character you're playing is like this really silent, introverted person who doesn't know what to say when you have to do it. So, I think where the problem then comes is again the times that we are living in, because maybe because you're an introvert, you probably don't sell yourself or pitch yourself as an actor wherever you go, or
Right.
your social media presence is not that strong, or you can't light up a room when you walk in, and that's okay.
That's okay.
That's more than okay. I mean, like I said, this is just one way for you to maybe reach your destination, but you can just silently work on your craft the entire time and get there also.
True.
So there is all kinds of people are actors. There is no, you know, you have to be loud and out and about.
Yeah.
Nothing of that sort.
First person who comes to mind is Heath Ledger. He
God.
waited. I mean, he spent an entire 1 month in the room, in a hotel room, locked himself to get into the character of the Joker.
Right.
And what a role he played there, you know.
Yeah.
And I think it's always very difficult to play the role of a villain in a film, because you are trying your best to make sure that the audience
Yeah,
doesn't
definitely.
like you, right? And what happens is that I feel sometimes the audience starts relating an actor to the role that he or she played in the movie. Like for example, Imran Hashmi. Now I had to, you know, I see him. He might be the most sober and the most fun-loving person in real
Yeah.
life, but my impression of him is that he just likes to do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so let's start with the Heath Ledger thing, right?
Yes, go
So, again, the whole fraternity is divided on whether everything that he did is a right approach to acting, because we know how things ended.
Yeah.
And it's happened in the past with a lot of other actors also, where so there are different schools of acting, there are different methods of acting. So this is actually called method acting.
Okay.
What he did, where you basically try to get into the shoes of the character that you're playing, try to live life that way, to then be able to portray it with truth on screen, so to say. But that doesn't necessarily work for everyone. For other actors, it might come very instinctively.
Right.
Maybe other actors work on their instinct or work with what they've been given. So, like in the middle, in someone's interview, I heard the actor say, you know, like, if you're playing the role of a waiter, you don't necessarily have to work in like a coffee shop or a restaurant for 6 months to know how plates are kept on a table or like how dishes are washed. You don't need to do that. Sometimes you just need to read the script, find a point of connection with the script, and just try to play truthfully on screen. Like, go with your instinct, go with your gut, go with what feels right to you, because maybe your experiences and you as a person bring something else to that waitress or waiter character that you probably won't get with physically actually. So there are different ways to approach any role. There is also the whole, do you start with the physicality and then find the internal workings of the character you're trying to build, or do you go from the internal workings of the character and then find that in physicality? So all of these things are very different for different people, and method acting, what Heath Ledger did, is one of the most difficult in a way to again, it comes down to sustainability, because like if you're playing somebody who's a patient in a mental hospital, then how are you going to try and do it with method acting, right? Imagine locking yourself up in an institution for 6 months to try and understand what is happening. You might actually go mad.
Right.
So it doesn't always work. It's different for different things, and like you said, for villain characters it's even more difficult, because you have to, like, if you're a hated character, it means you've done a good job.
Yeah.
Right? Like, the fact that
You've been successful.
the fact that you think Imran Hashmi in real life is this, I don't know, Tharki guy.
Horny.
Yeah. He probably did a good job on
He
screen
did,
then,
yeah.
you
He
know.
did.
So it's just, it boils down to kind of navigating and figuring out what method works for you to reach wherever you want to reach. And more often than not, actors aren't what you see them on screen as. They are like completely different people.
Yeah.
They're just doing their job.
Right.
So
I think that distinction is very important. And
yeah,
more people need to understand that,
yeah,
including me.
And I think early on it was even more difficult, you know, like people looked at Amitabh Bachchan as this angry young Indian and like, you know, filled with rage and whatever, or Shah Rukh Khan as this, I don't know, chocolate hero, this flamboyant, loving human being, which is the image that is stuck with them all this while. But now you see all of these bigger names are putting up a lot of BTS videos, a lot of interviews, a lot of content. We come across a lot of content where we see who they are as individuals. So now I feel it's reduced a lot, the whole idea of thinking that what is on screen is actually off screen. I think that ratio has gone down a lot, even amongst the audiences, because you are seeing them in their normal real life. You know, it could, I don't know, it could be Woompla or Viral Bhayani, whatever, those channels also where you see actors walking to the airport with like the weirdest captions. But you're seeing them, you're interacting with them on a very
personal level.
Yeah, like a very neutral level where they're just being themselves. So I think that has changed quite a bit.
Another thing which I wouldn't say it bothers me, but then you see actors like Akshay Kumar, Ajay Devgan, Shah Rukh Khan do the Zubaan Kesari ads, and I find it very ridiculous, you know, because I know that the tobacco companies are offering a lot of money, which is probably the only reason why they're doing it. But to a certain extent, actors with that kind of an image that they've built, I mean, they're propagating the wrong product, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to the actor and what maybe say his or her ethical, moral stand on the whole situation is.
Right.
I mean, it's not just this, right? It's also Shahid Kapoor deciding to do the role in, God, I'm so bad at names.
The doctor. The toxic doctor.
Kabir.
Yes, toxic doctor.
it's also it's also Shahid Kapoor deciding to do Kabir Singh. You know, that's actively choosing to do a certain kind of role,
Right.
that portrays a certain kind of thing. So it's very individual in nature, and
Makes sense.
I mean, it's probably difficult to be in their position also. You know, like you don't always have the liberty to say yes or no for certain things. I mean, yeah, again, it's a very debated thing. It's the whole art versus artist debate that comes into the picture then.
Right.
You know, there are a lot of artists, not just actors, but artists in all of their own capacities, who try to pick the right roles, who try to pick the right TV commercials or whatever that come their way. But again, a lot of times
It depends from person.
yeah, it's
Cool.
yeah.
So, moving on, let me. You have done theatre as well as acted in movies. So, what is the main difference between the two? Because, I mean, theatre is a lot tougher because there are no retakes during the
Yeah.
final performance.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if we should compare.
Okay.
Because films have their own, or acting for screen has its own like trials and tribulations that you probably don't face when you're doing any theatre production.
Right.
And vice versa. Like for films, you have to work really odd hours in really difficult conditions. Like you could be up a mountain, like I don't know, in a chiffon sari, you know, like you have to deal with things like that. Also, but it has its own challenges basically, and I think the major difference is the approach that you have to these things, right? I think for any actor, theatre is a great way to practice your craft.
Okay.
Because I mean, what makes an actor is constant practice of your craft, right? What makes a singer is riyaz. What makes a guitarist or musician is practice. So with acting, how do you do that, right?
So-
like if you don't have work, how do you do that? So that is where I think theatre is a major plus for most people, because
Okay.
you can pick up any play, you can do scene study, you can do scene work, you can build characters, you can it doesn't take much.
Test
like you can
characters
like
also.
just gather 5 people who are interested in the same things and play a scene out, you know.
Right.
And that's all. If you practice that much, you are an actor, right? So I mean, I have this whole problem with this whole struggling actor thing also. You know how people say ये struggling actor है, या आराम नगर में तो सारे struggling actors भरे पड़े हैं. What does struggling actor mean? You know, like it's either you're an actor or you're not.
Right.
Even if like 2 people, if you practice something, you put it up, or just 2 people watch you perform a scene and they like it, you're an actor.
Right.
You know, because there is no formal way of doing things
And
in this
struggles
field.
exist
And
everywhere.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you don't have
I
to-
bet you there are more engineers out there without jobs than there are
I agree with
actors who are, you know, but we don't go
Struggle.
around saying struggling engineer. But
That's a good way to say.
yeah, I mean, no offense to engineers,
No, of course not.
everyone's struggling. But so I think theatre gives you that space, gives you that liberty to play with what you want to do, with what you have, for
Right.
that matter. Also, you can experiment a lot in
Yeah.
theatre, and I love that. And there is no particular form, or like it's all a level playing field. Also, theatre gives actors the opportunity to do something on their own. You don't have to just wait around. You know, you can actively go out there, work with a theatre group. No theatre group is going to say, no, we are full, we don't want more people. No theatre group will say
Makes
that.
sense.
They are always, you know, they'll invite you with open arms. You can write your own work, you can perform your own work, there are so many avenues nowadays that are available.
Right.
So I think theatre is great in that sense. Also with theatre,
So theatre is not going anywhere. It's not like a dying industry. No, right?
not at all.
Thank you,
It's an
because-
evolving industry.
Right.
It's not a dying industry. It's definitely evolving. I mean, when the pandemic hit, everybody had to change the way they do things.
Yeah.
And theatre, which is primarily a live performing art, also did that. Right? It went digital. We saw digital plays. People produced digital plays. They played with technology for theatre. And so it's evolving as time goes, and it's definitely not dying.
It's not dying.
It's not dying at all.
Thank God.
Whereas acting for film, I think the approach is very different. You have to cater to what the director wants, what the script demands, what world the film is set in, what, like, all of those things, right? With theatre, if you are part of the process from the beginning, you can build up to that. You can build up to figuring out what world it's set in, what kind of characters you want to build, and like it's a lot of give and take.
Correct.
So theatre, I personally feel it's more fun to work in a theatre production.
Okay.
But film has its own advantages and
Fun
things
times.
like that. Yeah.
Okay, now you mentioned sitcoms, rom-coms, and you're a big fan of those, right? By seeing a movie or a TV show through your lens, what's your favorite TV show? And
So right now I'm still reeling over Ted Lasso.
yes,
I love Ted Lasso.
Same.
I live by the rom-communism philosophy also. And I think it's a brilliant show. It's a wonderful show, what they've
does.
managed to do. For a complete sport and football noob, I now know terms from football, which is like a big deal.
The Premier League, Champions League, and
I had no idea.
Yeah, same. Even I had no idea.
And like much later, like the latest season that came out, that time my partner told me, he's like, do you realize that all of the characters based on real life people, right?
They
And
are?
I was like, no way. Yeah, all of the football players are based on like real life football players.
So I know
that they have
Zava is based on that.
Yeah,
Zlatan.
but even others. Like if you see interviews of all the actors, they will speak about who they are based off of.
I need
It's
to check
insane.
this out.
Yeah, it's a whole different world. Like after I found that out, I was like, I was living a lie. I need to rewatch the show
Yeah.
again with all of this in mind. So I think that was a major, particularly for Ted Lasso, to see how these characters have taken inspiration from real life football players and portrayed them on screen without making it caricature-ish. Like
That's very
I think
important,
that's
I
yeah. But right now I'm just like massively fangirling over
Ted
Lasso. Also because I think for me, I don't just watch a show, but then I'll also Google things about it like immediately.
Yeah.
And I found out that the guy who plays Roy Kent, Brett Goldstein, is the one who's also written the show, like co-written the show. And it's insane to just think that this amazing person who's an amazing actor on screen is also the brains behind this.
Yeah.
And also, like, just
crazy.
imagine the kind of creativity he has or the potential that he has.
And even Jason Sudeku.
Yes.
Sudeski. Whatever.
Cucumber batch.
He is. I really like the warmth that he brings in.
Yeah.
Like he's so comforting as a character.
Yeah.
I mean, me not knowing much about the backstage and the film industry, it's really nice to see a character like that come in.
Yeah, and he, like you said, he's like just in his element. He's so natural, and like there are these really quirky characters throughout in the show, but like people that you might not see in real life, but you still believe that they exist. I think that's the beauty of that show. That like somebody like a Keely also, you might not run into somebody who is that extra in real life, but you are in that show with her. You are completely Team Keely, and you are like, yes, you go girl. So I think when I watch anything, my approach is very like just watch things first, see whether you
Think
like
later.
it or not. Think later. Otherwise, if you go into like a whole analysis mode all the time, you lose your mind. But then there are some things, some movies or TV shows that you go back to and that you then dive deeper into to sort of figure out, how did this person bring this quality, or just try to figure out for yourself, why did I like this show?
Right.
Like, go down to the bottom of that, and then you get the answers of what they probably did that is so endearing to you. You know, like what makes Jason's character so endearing, because he's not trying hard, you know, like most of the times he has these really heavy philosophical dialogues,
Right.
but he takes it normally, like you and I are speaking.
Exactly.
Like if you would have played it over the top and made it like all, you know, standing in the center of the stage and like this is life and
He says
blah
it
blah
so
blah.
casually, right?
That
And
makes
the-
it endearing.
And the
So-
fun part is that they're two opposing forces. So Jason is someone who's a very warm character.
Yeah.
He's entering into this cutthroat, hardcore world,
yeah.
and then he just comforts everything and just takes over, which
Yeah.
is so nice. I love it.
Yeah, so I think like random movie and TV show trivia or watching people's interviews and things like that is like my go-to after I've seen a movie or TV show. Just to watch the content around it. You know, read articles on how it was made, what went down on the set. So I think all of those things then become like a crash course on how things worked.
Nice. Cool. So, now that actors and actresses are transitioning into the movie world from the theatre world, is that actually happening? Like, are theatre artists
Definitely. And now
kind of moving away from theatre also?
I wouldn't say moving away,
Right.
but there is more opportunity now. Like in the last, say, couple of years that OTT has just blown out of proportion in India. Earlier, the only avenues you had were, say, TV serials, like all your Saas Bahu ones on Sony, Colors, Star, all of that, ads
Yeah.
on TV, or big banner films. And by big banner, I mean like theatrical release 70mm films, right? Those are the options you had. But now, there are also everything that happens on OTT, right? Your TV shows that happen on OTT. There is all your scoop whoop filter copy kind of videos that you can work in. There is also YouTube TV shows that you
Right.
can work in. Like there is a plethora of options available that have opened up for you, which is giving a lot of actors so much more opportunity.
Yeah.
So, and now with OTT, even we as an audience have evolved. Like, I mean, I know for a fact that at least I didn't watch a lot of Hindi content. I mean, other than like your amazing Dharma and, you know, Yash Raj movies and Suraj Bharjatia films. I grew up on those. I love them shamelessly. But other than that, I never engaged in any regional content because it didn't feel like I could relate to it.
Right.
But now with OTT, there is content that is relatable, and
Exactly.
because there is content that is relatable, you now have characters that are relatable.
Exactly.
Which means that people like you and I can get a role. Like you don't need to be
Being a true authentic self is more important
like
now.
you don't need to be a 5-7 stick figure Yash Raj actress. You know, you can be you and you can still fit into a certain role or a character.
I think a very
So-
good show which sort of portrayed this relatable lifestyle was, and these problems. Have you heard of The Bear?
Yes. I'm just watching it right now, actually.
Wow.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane.
Amazing the way
Yeah.
that they've. I mean, starting right from the cinematography to the acting,
Yeah.
it's just so natural, and
So that's what I'm saying now. Those things are also coming to OTTs here in India.
in India,
There are shows that people from second tier, third tier cities can relate to. Like something like Panchayat becoming such a big hit is because it was their story,
right?
right? So there will always be aspirational value, right? There will always be an audience for Rocky or Rani. There
Right.
will always be an audience for Switzerland में जाके, you know, snow में नाच रहा है. Because that is an aspirational life that everyone wants to live.
That's
But
true.
now people are moving towards a more relatable approach to things, you know. They want to watch shows like Patal Lok and Mirzapur and Panchayat or even any show that is coming out nowadays. right? There is something for everybody now.
Another topic I really want to talk about is the argument between the art you're doing and the money you're making. Right?
Yeah.
Money is a byproduct at the end of the day.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
how? Just please expand. Take it from
I think that's every artist's nightmare.
Okay.
And money is the byproduct that you're making, but it's the most essential thing to live nowadays. One of the most essential. It is very, very difficult for most artists to make money off of what they are doing. But I'm a dancer and I'm an actor, theatre and films both. So that's my art, so to say. So for me, I realized at a very early on stage that just relying on this is not going to be enough. And it isn't for most actors that are starting out.
Right.
You need to, this is a very personal opinion, but I personally feel like you need a passive income. You need something that gives you a certain amount of stability so that you can focus on what you actually want to do. Right? I mean, not everyone has the privilege of just being and pursuing art. It's a very, it's a very utopian out there concept that is not going to be true for quite some time. We don't have patronage that artists did probably in a different era, but I feel like being able to find the balance and actually doing something about it is what will change it, right? Like most artists will crib around saying, I don't know how to make ends meet, I don't have enough money, like, what are you doing about it? Right? So, and you can do a bunch of things that pay. Like, especially nowadays in the world that we're living in the whole gig economy and the concept of that, you can do a lot of things that can make you money and that can also align a little bit with what you do. Like, I do a lot of freelance content writing, which helps me pay my bills. And then that is one thing that I have to worry about lesser, right? And I mean, when I was starting out, it also took me years to sort of build a portfolio on even for that. But now that that cycle is sort of in place, then I can actually focus on things that I want to do, and they might not pay me, and that's fine.
Yeah, it's all a learning.
Yeah, so I might take up roles that are interesting to me, like in a short film where they don't have a budget. That's fine. I have the liberty and the time to do that because I've found an alternative income stream, right? So it really doesn't have to be about art versus money, but for yourself, and it's different for different people. But you just have to figure a way out that you can balance the two. A lot of times it does happen that maybe, I can't go and watch a play that I really wanted to because I have a deadline. But then, I just have to suck it up and do it. Yeah, so I think it's very important I take Kathak classes online also for students abroad or even here. So it's basically, if you invest enough time in art, it'll also pay you back over time in good ways, right? I've been dancing since I was 5, so I've been dancing for 20 years. I finished my Alankar, which means I can now teach, which means now I can charge for every hour that I teach. Like I can charge on an hourly basis. But that's because I've invested that much time and because it has now...
Back to the argument of upskilling.
It
ends up paying off, something.
Yeah, so you just need to figure a way out to balance the two. It doesn't have to be one versus the other, but
makes sense.
You have to do things that you probably don't want to do in order to do things that you want to do. So,
nowadays there are these Instagram trends that have started. One very recent trend was the Wes Anderson reel trend, where people play that soundtrack and they don't even know what Wes Anderson's movie style is like.
Yeah.
The symmetrical shots and
the color palette.
The color palette. And he's trying to tell a story through all of this.
Correct.
But now people are just putting that on, walking around and expecting it to be that caliber. I don't even know if I'm right. But the funny thing is that there's this actual audio clip on the internet where Wes Anderson is losing his mind on the movie set because the camera angle is 1 inch tilted And he's just screaming.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, saying that, if the camera angle is fucking tilted, it won't go in the fucking movie. And it. So, what is your take on these Instagram trends? Like, are they doing justice to?
I don't think so, but I also don't think that is their
intention.
That is the intention or the goal, right? With all of these trends, like it's a tool in people's hands, right? A phone camera. So now people are going wild and doing really crazy things with it. So I mean, there are films being shot on phones also, and then there is this also, right? It's just encouraging people to create things. I mean, it's not fair on Wes Anderson because it is sort of not doing justice to why he makes his work that way. Like if you see Every Frame a Painting, it's this YouTube channel, and he breaks down movies, and just go and watch his episode on Wes Anderson and whatever, and he'll go into depth of like why they are centered, why there is a certain color palette and things like that. It's obviously in a way demeaning to his work, but it's also great because it gives people the opportunity to even do something like this.
True.
Also, like, I don't know if Wes Anderson is that famous. He's not like a Christopher Nolan, right?
True.
So a lot of people who didn't know Wes Anderson found out about his work, which I'm really happy about because I'm a huge fan.
Yes.
So pros and cons on both ways, but just the fact that people can do these things is amazing. Like, just the fact that we have opportunities now. I mean, this is something I heard on Amit Varma's podcast. It's called The Seen and the Unseen.
Okay.
And he invites a lot of amazing people from India as guests. And he spoke about how when he was starting out, there were so many gatekeepers that nobody would let him make a 6-hour long podcast or even let him write about whatever he wanted to, because he had to submit things to newspapers. Newspapers would be gatekeepers about what is published, what isn't published, or radio channels would gatekeep what sort of content, audio content can go out. But now he has the capacity to, he has the tools in hand to, just like what you're doing right now, right? You wouldn't have been able to do this if Instagram, Spotify, YouTube, all of these things didn't allow people to do whatever the hell they want to do, right? From doing whatever the hell they want to do, we've now come down to, okay, this works, this doesn't work. So I think it's great that we can do it. Now it's up to you to decide what you want to do with it.
Cool. So these days, before we wrap up, what kind of podcasts are you in? Do you mention Amit Varma? So I want to know more.
Yes, I'm a huge fan.
Okay.
And his episodes are like 6-7 hours long, which means it takes me like a week to get through it. But I think he manages to really get into the depth of things with all the guests that come. So you listen to their life, you listen to their belief systems and what they think about things, not just their work.
Yeah, it's like a deep dive.
So yeah, it's great. And I feel like you end up learning a lot from conversations that don't necessarily directly answer the question that is being asked. So I listen to that. I listen to Stuff You Should Know, which is just like a fun thing. Like they will tell you the randomest of things. Like one of my favorite episodes is how Kellogg's came to be. Like it was first like a sugary thing that they would give to patients to cure their deviated personalities. So like if you were on like anywhere, or like if you were queer in any sort, then they would like lock you up and give you a sugar rush and like things like that. That is where the Kellogg's brother came from, and now it's a cereal.
Wow.
So I think Stuff You Should Know is insane in that way. It has the most stupid fun things. Sorry, and I'm also listening to Revisionist History by Malcolm Gladwell. So the marketing advertising nerd in me comes out from that. There are a bunch of film podcasts also. So I'm actually big on podcasts. Like I'm really excited that I got to do this.
Yes.
There was also immense pressure to sound smart because people on podcasts, they sound smart and very...
Yeah. No, even for me, I think this idea of podcasting just happened and came to be because I wanted to first of all broaden my own perspective, and then why not offer this to other people also, so that they can also maybe broaden their perspectives about careers and meeting interesting people. But in the Indian podcast scene, I think there's this guy called Shantanu, who's the founder of the Bombay Shaving Company.
Okay.
And he started this podcast called Barbershop with Shantanu, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
But that's a really interesting podcast because there he brings on guests who are from an entrepreneurial background, who have started companies, and then they talk about their journeys, and it's a nice podcast. Yeah.
There's so much content out there.
Yeah.
It's like really difficult to
navigate and find the
figure
right
out
thing
what
for
to
you.
listen to, what to watch, and like it gets overwhelming sometimes, but
Cool.
I'm not complaining.
I think content is something which you can never run out of these days. So. Cool. I think I'm very happy with what we've spoken today.
This has been a lot of fun. Thank you for having me.
Yes. So let's wrap up.
Yeah.
Cool. Chalo.
We hope you enjoy the video, and please do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the Legroom channel.